Thank you. Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to appreciate the witnesses today. By the way, I'm a big fan of our military. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, but I will say the Army needs to really up its game on being more forthcoming on this latest incident. I have actually requested from my position on the Armed Services Committee a briefing. I certainly hope it's not some big shot general who thinks he needs a quick trip over to the Pentagon and will blow off the FAA safety requirements. That better not be what happened, but they need to start giving answers to this committee and other committees, because what happened was just unacceptable. So we'll continue to press them on that, but they really haven't been that forthcoming. I want to focus on the Alaska Safety Initiative that the FAA has worked with me and this committee on. This was the outgrowth of a 10-year study by the NTSB that showed we had crash rates that were almost 2.5 times the rate of the rest of the country. Fatality rates were much higher than the rest of the country as well. So working with the FAA, we instituted the Alaska Aviation Safety Initiative, FASI, and last year's FAA reauthorization, we were able to get a whole bunch of things in that bill that related to Alaska aviation safety, a goal of reducing the rate of fatal aircraft accidents by 90% through 2033, requires the FAA to improve maintenance of weather equipment and growing those weather equipment issues. As you know, many of our rural airports don't have any weather reporting, which, you know, in the lower 48, nobody would accept that. Dozens and dozens. And I will say I want to compliment Secretary Duffy. He is delivering on these promises. So is the President. The FAA announced a $25 million investment in the FASI initiative at the beginning of April, and a significant expansion of the FAA's use of satellites in Alaska to help support connectivity and weather monitoring. The President actually announced with Secretary Duffy just on May 8th in their press conference a dramatic increase in the number of new weather observation stations in Alaska. So we really, really appreciated that. Of course, Senator Cruz mentioned all the other upgrades that they both announced at this very important press conference last week that I'm fully supportive of. So I want to thank Secretary Duffy, the FAA, the President, on really focusing on delivering on a number of these issues. Can I ask you on the weather observation systems in the maintenance, you know, we don't have enough. President and Secretary Duffy acknowledged that with this dramatic announcement. But where are we on the maintenance issues for maintaining our weather systems? As you know, we'll have a weather reporting AWOS system that goes down in a small rural community that has an airport, and it'll take a long time to get an FAA official out there to fix it. So do we have an update on that? I think that was required in the FAA bill for 60 days after an enactment.
Senator Sullivan, I'm going to have to take an IOU on that one. I'm sorry, I do not have an answer. I do know that we talk about this all the time. When we do have an outage, I often speak with my team, and usually the hardest thing is the accessibility to get there, not via any of our transportation mechanisms, but sometimes it's the weather or some of the terrain. But I will. A lot of these
communities, we have over 230 communities in Alaska that are not connected by roads.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people don't know that. So the only way to get in is through an airplane or a boat if the community's on a river. So that's why this is so important. And if you don't have weather reporting, then you have no idea what it's like to fly in there. And you know, we have some pretty nasty weather in my state.
I would, so as in, we do recognize aviation is the primary form of transportation for Alaska, and that the need to provide support for resources, food, and medical supplies is paramount. We recognize that, and we definitely want to make sure that we are doing everything we can so the people that are relying on us have the faith that we're doing what we need to do. We are pursuing the large body of work that you're speaking to, and at the Secretary's request, we are doing critical investments in the things that you're speaking to, with deploying dozens of AWOSs, automated weather observing systems, and also the VWOSs, the visual weather observation systems, and numerous weather cameras to make sure that there's better accessibility to the items that you're talking about. But I will take an IOU, if that's okay, sir, as far as what the repair times look like.
Senator Sullivan, if I could add, I'm happy to report that we're in in consultation for finalizing guidance to our Alaska office regarding the expansion of Airport Improvement Program funding for the funding of AWOS for airports across Alaska, as well as another provision I believe you championed, special justifications for runway projects in Alaska to support community needs.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And again, I want to thank Secretary Duffy and the President. You know, he's the one who made the announcement on the weather observation systems in Alaska and the dramatic upgrade. Very quick, Mr. Chairman, one final question. I've been working with the some of the controllers on legislation to create a shot clock for updating the ATC system from copper wiring to fiber optic technology. Would that kind of push from us help you guys? I know you need the funding, but this issue of copper wires, the chairman just mentioned it, the secretary's been mentioning it. It is something about speed for data that we need, and unfortunately our systems are really slow. What do you think about something like that?
Senator Sullivan, I will say that we would appreciate bipartisan support for our infrastructure. It's sorely needed, and fiber is a large piece of the infrastructure improvements that we're asking for to replace copper that's currently there.
Great. Thank you.